Thank you to the state's attorney, to Detective Tiros. You did a great job. I truly appreciate it. To the Attorney General. It's been 3 months of pain and agony.
3 months. That's how long it took. 3 months of a family screaming into the void, begging for someone to listen. 3 months of a killer walking free, while a little boy asked his grandmother when Mommy was coming home. 3 months of people telling them there wasn't enough evidence, that the law tied their hands, that sometimes justice just doesn't happen the way we want it to. But here's the thing about persistence, about refusing to let a story die, about a mother who wouldn't stop fighting for her daughter. Sometimes, just sometimes, the system finally does what it's supposed to do. December 3rd, 2024. Des Plaines, Illinois. Holly Johnson was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. The woman who claimed self-defense, who walked out of police custody back in September like nothing happened, was finally being held accountable. And what prosecutors revealed in that courtroom the next day, what the judge said, what we learned about Holly's actions after pulling that trigger. It's going to make you question everything you thought you knew about this case. But before we get there, I need you to do something for me. If this is your first time hearing about Romeca Meeks, or if you've been following this story from the beginning, and you want to see justice served, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Share this video because this story needs to be heard. And subscribe to Mystoracrimes and click that bell icon, because we don't just report on cases when they're convenient. We follow them until the truth comes out. And trust me, you're going to want to see how this ends. Now, let me catch you up on what happened, because understanding where we've been makes where we are now even more powerful. Romeca Meeks was 31 years old, a mother living in Chicago, trying to build a good life for her son. On the morning of September 8th, 2024, she did what thousands of parents do every single day. She packed her 6-year-old son's lunch, and she tucked a handwritten note inside. It said, "You're the coolest, smartest, funniest kid I know. I love you so much. Have a great day. Mommy loves you." That note was supposed to brighten his day. Instead, it became one of the last things she ever wrote. After dropping her son off at school in the South Loop, Romeca was walking back to her car. That's when she ran into Holly Johnson. Now, this wasn't a random encounter. Holly Johnson was involved with Romeca's ex-boyfriend, a man named Carlos Smith, and both women had children with him. You can already feel the tension building, right? 2 women, 1 man, shared children, unresolved conflict. The kind of situation that simmers under the surface until something makes it explode. And on that September morning, it exploded in the worst way possible.
The gun, she shot her? Let's go right here. She shot her. She shot her. She put the gun in the car. She put the gun in the car. The gun is in the car.
That morning, Carlos Smith was there too. Witnesses said they saw an argument break out between Romeca and Holly. Words were exchanged, things got heated, and then it turned physical. But here's what makes this different from a typical fight. Carlos didn't just stand there watching. According to witnesses, he grabbed Romeca, he slammed a car door on her, and then he put her in a chokehold. Let that sink in for a moment. The father of her child, restraining her, holding her down while another woman stood nearby. Romeca wasn't the aggressor. She was standing there with her arms crossed, trying to navigate a situation she never asked to be in. And that's when something even more chilling happened. Holly Johnson didn't just pull out a gun from her waistband. No, witnesses and video footage showed that she ran back to her vehicle, pulled out the murder weapon, and then ran back to the scene. She wanted to get that gun. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment decision, where a weapon was already in her hand. She made a choice to go get it. Then she fired once. Romeca staggered, and then Holly paused. Not a split-second pause, not an accidental hesitation. A deliberate pause. And then she fired again. And again. 3 shots total. 3 bullets. Romeca fell to the ground. Her car door was still open. Her son's lunchbox still inside with that note. And Holly Johnson walked away. Police arrived. Holly was taken into custody. At first, It seemed like justice would be swift. How could it not be? There were witnesses. There was video footage circulating on social media showing the aftermath and showing Holly running back to her car to get the gun. There were 3 shell casings recovered from the scene. But then something happened that stunned everyone. Holly claimed self-defense. She said she had a valid concealed carry license, that she felt threatened, that Romeca had come at her aggressively. And prosecutors looked at that claim, looked at the evidence, and said they didn't have enough to charge her. So they let her go. You can imagine what that did to Romeca's family. Her mother, a woman who had just lost her daughter in the most violent, public way imaginable, now had to process the fact that the person responsible was free. Not just free, but claiming to be the victim. Romeca's sister took to social media, pleading with people to stop sharing the graphic video of her sister's body on the pavement.
My baby sister on that ground, please. Get y'all, please. For my mama and
The family was being re-traumatized over and over as that footage spread across TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And meanwhile, Holly Johnson was living her life. The community erupted. Vigils were held. People wore pink in Romeca's honor. A petition on change.org demanding justice gathered thousands of signatures. Community leaders stood beside Romeca's mother at press conferences, calling for accountability, for reform, for someone to explain how a woman could be shot 3 times in broad daylight and the shooter could walk free. And through it all, Romeca's mother was raising her grandson, a little boy who turned 7 years old just days after his mother was killed. A little boy who kept asking where Mommy was, why she wasn't coming home, why his birthday felt so different this year. But what makes this even more heartbreaking is what Romeca's mother revealed later. She said, "I need y'all to pray for my baby. He is shut down. He don't want to be around nobody." That 7-year-old boy, who should be running around playing with friends, laughing, being a kid, has emotionally withdrawn from the world. The trauma of losing his mother, of not understanding why she never came back, has closed him off. And his grandmother, while fighting for justice, is also fighting to bring that little boy back to life. For 3 months, this family fought. They showed up at every press conference. They kept Romeca's name alive on social media. They refused to let the system forget, and the community stood with them. But as the weeks turned into months, as October became November, the fear started creeping in. What if nothing ever happens? What if Holly Johnson really does get away with this? What if this is just how it ends? But then December 3rd happened. Holly Johnson was arrested in Des Plaines. After 3 months of walking free, of living her life while Romeca's family lived in agony, she was finally taken back into custody. And the next day, December 4th, she appeared in court. The courtroom was packed. Dozens of supporters showed up wearing pink, standing in solidarity with Romeca's family. And when the charges were read, it was official. First-degree murder. Not manslaughter. Not a lesser charge. First-degree murder. Romeca's mother stood outside the courthouse. And I'm going to show you what she said in just a moment because her words are powerful. But before that, let me tell you what prosecutors revealed in that courtroom. Because these details changed everything. They laid out facts that hadn't been made public before. Facts that make Holly's self-defense claim look like exactly what Romeca's family said it was from the beginning. A lie. First, prosecutors confirmed that Holly Johnson and Romeca Meeks had never met in person before that day. Never. Not once. And yet, back in December of 2023, Holly had filed a protective order against Romeca. She claimed Romeca had threatened her through family members, that she felt unsafe, that she needed legal protection. But they'd never met. Think about that. How do you file a protective order against someone you've never encountered? Romeca's family had been saying from the start that Holly was building a paper trail, creating a narrative that would make her look like the victim if anything ever happened. And they were right. Second, and this is huge, prosecutors detailed exactly how the shooting went down. Holly didn't just fire in a panic. She didn't act out of immediate fear. The evidence shows she ran back to her car, retrieved the gun, and came back to the scene. Then she fired once. Romeca was hit, and then Holly paused. She didn't fire in a continuous burst. She didn't empty the clip in a moment of terror. She paused. She had time to think, time to assess, time to make a decision. And she chose to pull that trigger again. And then again. That pause, legally speaking, is everything. Because self-defense is about immediate threat, about split-second decisions made in fear for your life. But when you pause, when you have time to think, and you still choose to fire 2 more times, that's not self-defense. That's intent. That's murder. Third, prosecutors confirmed that Romeca was unarmed. She had no weapon. She wasn't holding anything that could have been perceived as a threat. And yet Holly, who had Carlos there with her, who had just watched Carlos put Romeca in a chokehold, still felt the need to go get a gun and fire 3 times. And then the judge said something that absolutely floored everyone in that courtroom. The judge said celebrating in the street after shooting someone is not self-defense. Let me repeat that. Holly Johnson was celebrating. After firing 3 bullets into Romeca Meeks, after watching her fall to ground, after taking a mother away from her child, Holly Johnson was celebrating in the street. What kind of person does that? What kind of mind thinks that's an appropriate response to taking someone's life? The judge heard all of this and made a decision. Holly Johnson would remain in custody. No bail. She's due back in court on December 23rd. And there's one more detail you need to know. Holly Johnson is pregnant. She appeared in court pregnant, facing a first-degree murder charge, knowing that if convicted, she could spend the rest of her life in prison. Now I want to show you what Romeca's mother said after that court hearing, because her words capture the weight of what this family has been carrying.
I just want to say thank you to the state's attorney, to Detective Tiros. You did a great job. I truly appreciate it. To the Attorney General. It's been 3 months of pain and agony. I just want to say thank you, Lord. Thank you. Justice, please. I just want justice. I don't want to fight with nobody. I don't want to argue with nobody. I just want justice for my daughter. And I want peace in my family. This has been such a hard 3 months. It's been painful. It's been terrible. We've been torn apart. One of the leaders of our family, she was the baby, but she was the leader. The holidays are not holidays. I'm just grateful to God. And I am happy on today's verdict. I thank you, I thank you, I thank you. And all I want is to be done, is justice to be done. I want justice so I can have a peace and mind. It won't bring her back, but it will be a little peace now. It feel like a big bundle just been lifted off my head and my heart.
Here's what she said. I want justice so I can have peace of mind. It won't bring her back, but it will be little peace now. I just feel like a big bundle has been lifted off my head and heart. This has been such a hard 3 months. It's been painful. It's been terrible. We've been torn apart. You can hear it in her voice. The exhaustion, the relief mixed with grief. She's not celebrating. She's not vindictive. She just wants some small measure of peace after 3 months of fighting a system that seemed determined to ignore her daughter's death.
So much. I couldn't have did it without y'all. I couldn't have made it this far without y'all. You and you. I love you girls.
Thank you.
You hear me? And I thank y'all so much.
We're happy with the verdict.
And we're happy with the verdict. Justice for me. Justice for me. Justice for me. Justice for me. Justice for me.
Romeca's sister also spoke, and what she said about Romeca's son hit me hard. She said, Carlos may be hurt for the rest of his life, but we make sure he sees rainbows in his clouds. There is nothing he needs that we cannot provide.
Carlos is doing great. He has always been doing great. He has a strong mother. He has a strong grandmother. He has strong aunties. He has strong uncles. He has a village. Carlos may be hurt for the rest of his life, but we make sure he see rainbows in his clouds. Okay? Nothing will ever change about that. There is nothing he needs that we cannot provide. He is perfectly well. He is happy. He is thriving. And even when he feels his lowest, we pull him out of it together like we do with each other. He is a superstar like his mom, and he's going to show her better than he can tell her.
Yes.
My name is your name?
Frederica.
My name is Dreka. Dreka. And I'm the sister they don't like to put in front of the camera, so I'm going to leave now.
He is perfectly well. He is happy. He is thriving. And even when he feels his lowest, we pull him out of it together. He is a superstar like his mom, and he's going to show her better than he could tell her. That family is doing everything they can to protect that little boy, to help him heal, to make sure he knows he's loved. But he shouldn't have to be a superstar without his mother. He should have to find rainbows and clouds that never should have existed in the first place. And then there's Carlos Smith, the man at the center of all of this, the man both women had children with, the man who, according to witnesses, put Romeca in a chokehold while Holly stood there with a gun. For 3 months, he stayed quiet. But after the December court hearing, he finally spoke. And I want you to hear what he said because it adds another layer of complexity to this case. Carlos said, "When I heard, I'm just looking, you know, it was unbelievable. But I was there, and I know for a fact none of that happened."
For the first time, we are hearing from the father at the center of a fatal confrontation.
Carlos Smith shared children with 2 women, and now one of them is charged with murdering the other.
So a lot of information came out in court today. Witnesses saying what they saw, but you were there. What's your reaction to what you heard came out in court today?
When I heard it, I'm just looking. You know, it was unbelievable, but I was there. And I know for a fact none of that happened, how they just explained it. But my truth will get out here, and I hope everybody understand. That's really it. I can't even say too much right now. You know, because it's just going to feel like I'm going against them, they going against me, we just going back and forth. But the truth is going to come out.
So Carlos is denying what witnesses said. He's denying that he put Romeca in a chokehold. He's saying his version of the truth will come out. And that raises so many questions. If what witnesses saw wasn't what happened, then what did happen? Why is Carlos trying to distance himself from both sides? And why isn't he facing any charges for his role in creating the situation that led to Romeca's death? Let's talk about why it took 3 months for charges to be filed, because this is important. Part of it is the legal complexity around self-defense claims. When someone says they fear for their life, prosecutors have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the fear wasn't reasonable, that the force used wasn't necessary. And that's hard to do when you're dealing with concealed carry laws that give people a lot of leeway. Illinois law allows people to defend themselves if they genuinely believe they're in danger. And Holly's claim was that Romeca came at her, that she felt threatened, that she had no choice. But here's what undermines that claim. The protective order filed against someone she'd never met. The fact that she ran back to her car to get the gun instead of it already being in her hand. The pause between shots. The fact that Romeca was unarmed. And the celebrating afterwards. All of those details together paint a picture that's very different from someone acting in immediate fear for their life. They paint a picture of someone who planned, who escalated, who made deliberate choices, and who felt justified afterwards. The other part why it took so long is that sometimes the system just moves slowly. Sometimes it takes public pressure, media attention, a family refusing to go away, to push things forward. And that's what happened here. Romeca's family didn't let this case disappear. They kept fighting. The community kept demanding answers. And eventually, the weight of that fight, combined with the evidence, was enough to tip the scales. But I want to go back to something Carlos said in September, right after the shooting happened. He posted on his Facebook wall, "Worst day of my life." That post got 9,000 shares and over 7,000 comments. And a lot of those comments were criticizing him. People were asking why he didn't stop it, why he was involved in restraining Romeca, why he put himself in a situation where two women who both had his children were confronting each other. And witnesses at the scene said that Carlos, with blood dripping down his hand, told people it was self-defense. He was already defending Holly before the police even arrived. Before anyone had time to process what happened, he was setting the narrative. And that makes you wonder, what conversations happened between Carlos and Holly before September 8th? Did they talk about Romeca? Did Holly express anger or jealousy? Did Carlos know she had a gun? And on that morning, when he drove Holly to where her car was parked, when they put their 6-month-old baby into the car, when Romeca showed up after dropping her son at school, did he know what was about to happen? Or was he just as shocked as everyone else claims to be? These are questions that might come out in trial. Because if this case goes to trial, and it likely will unless Holly takes a plea deal, then Carlos is going to have to testify. He's going to have to explain his role. He's going to have to reconcile his version of events with what multiple witnesses saw. And the jury is going to have to decide who's telling the truth. There's also the question of Holly's mindset. What drives someone to file a protective order against a person they've never met? What kind of planning does that take? And what was she thinking when she ran back to her car to get that gun? Was it a split-second decision? Or had she thought about the scenario before? Had she imagined confronting Romeca? Had she played out in her mind? And what about after? The celebrating. What does it mean that she celebrated after shooting someone? Was it relief? Was it triumph? Was it some twisted sense of victory? Because that behavior, more than anything else, shows a lack of remorse. It shows someone who didn't feel bad about what they'd done. And that's what the judge picked up on. That's why the judge said celebrating in the street is not self-defense. Because self-defense comes from fear, from a desperate need to survive. And when you celebrate afterwards, you're showing that it wasn't about survival at all. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture. Because this case is about more than just Romeca, Holly, and Carlos. It's about how we handle domestic conflicts. It's about how concealed carry laws can be manipulated. It's about how the legal system sometimes protects the wrong people. Romeca's family has been calling for reform. They want better protections for victims of domestic violence. They want prosecutors to take these cases seriously from the beginning, instead of waiting for public pressure. They want laws that prevent people from using self-defense as a shield when they're the ones who created the dangerous situation in the first place. And they want accountability for everyone involved. Not just Holly, but Carlos too, because he played a role in this. He created a situation where two women who both had his children were in the same place at the same time. He restrained Romeca according to witnesses. He defended Holly immediately afterwards. And yet, he's walking around free, claiming none of it happened the way people saw it. Where's his accountability? The community is also grappling with what this means. Parents in the South Loop, people who drop their kids off at that same school every day, are terrified. Because if it can happen to Romeca, it can happen to anyone. If someone can bring a gun to a school, shoot another parent 3 times, and walk away claiming self-defense, then where's the safety? Where's the line? When does the right to carry a weapon stop being about protection and start being about power? And there's the impact on the children. Romeca's son, who's shut down emotionally, who's being raised by his grandmother. Holly's 6-month-old baby, who's going to grow up knowing their mother is in prison for murder. Carlos's children, who have to navigate a world where their father is at the center of a tragedy. All of these kids are victims of adult decisions, adult conflicts, adult failures. And they're the ones who will carry the scars for the rest of their lives. Romeca's mother said something that stuck with me. She said the holidays are not holidays anymore. Think about that. Christmas is coming. New Year's. And for that family, those days are just painful reminders of who's missing, of the empty chair at the table, of the presents that won't be opened, of the traditions that feel hollow now. So where does this leave us? Holly Johnson is in custody, charged with first-degree murder, awaiting her next court date on December 23rd. That's coming up soon. And we'll be watching to see what happens next. Will there be a trial? Will Holly take a plea deal? Will Carlos be called to testify? Will new evidence come out that we haven't heard yet? All of those questions are still unanswered. But what we do know is that Romeca's family finally has the acknowledgement they've been demanding, the validation that their daughter's life mattered, that her death wasn't justified, that the person who pulled that trigger is being held accountable. But they don't have her back. They don't get to undo September 8th. They don't get to rewrite the story so that Romeca comes home, picks up her son from school, and tucks him into bed that night. What they have is a legal process that will take months, maybe years, to fully resolve. They have a trial ahead of them where they'll have to relive the worst day of their lives over and over. And they have a grandson who will grow up knowing his mother was taken from him. And I want you to sit with some questions, because this case forces us to ask things we don't always want to answer. What drives someone to plan a confrontation with a person they've never met? To file false protective orders? To bring a gun to school? To fire 3 times with a pause in between? And then to celebrate afterwards? What kind of psychology is at work there? Is it jealousy taken to an extreme? Is it a need for control? Is it something darker that we can't even fully understand? And what about Carlos? What's his responsibility in all of this? He had relationships with both women. He had children with both of them. He was there when it happened. He restrained Romeca according to witnesses. And now he's claiming none of it happened the way people saw it. What's the truth? And why isn't he being held accountable for his role in creating the circumstances that led to Romeca's death? Here's another question. How many other cases are out there right now where someone claimed self-defense and walked away, and the family is still fighting for justice? How many times does this happen where there's no video, no witnesses, no community putting pressure on the system? What happens to those families? Do they just have to accept that their loved one's death doesn't matter? That's a scary thought. And it's why cases like Romeca's are so important. Because when we shine a light on injustice, when we refuse to let hide in the shadows, sometimes we can force change. Romeca Meeks mattered. Her life, her dreams, her love for her son, all of it mattered. And the fact that it took 3 months and a mother's relentless fight to get charges filed tells you something about how fragile justice really is. It's not automatic. It's not guaranteed. It requires people who refuse to be quiet, who refuse to accept that this is just how things are. It requires families like Romeca's who show up every single day demanding to be heard. It requires communities that rally around them. And it requires media coverage that keeps the story alive instead of moving on to the next headline. And that's where you come in. Because if the story moved you, if it made you angry or sad or determined to see justice served, then don't just watch and move on. Share this video. Make sure people know Romeca's name. Make sure they know that Holly Johnson is finally being held accountable, but that the fight isn't over. Leave a comment telling me what you think about Carlos's statement, about the judge's words, about what should happen next. Hit that like button so this video reaches more people. Subscribe to Mystoracrimes and click the bell icon because we're going to follow this case all the way through. We're going to be there on December 23rd when Holly goes back to court. We're going to cover the trial. If it goes to trial, we're going to report on the verdict. And we're going to make sure that Romeca's story doesn't get lost in the noise, because she deserves that. Her son deserves that. Her mother, who's fighting for justice while raising a traumatized grandson, deserves that. And so do all of you who've been demanding justice alongside her family. I also want to hear from you. What do you think about Carlos's statement? Do you believe him when he says none of what the witnesses saw actually happened? Or do you think he's trying to protect himself? What about the judge saying Holly was celebrating in the street? Does that change how you see this case? And what should happen to Carlos? Should he face charges for his role in this? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is a conversation we need to keep having. And if you know someone who's been a victim of domestic violence, if you know someone who's in a situation where jealousy and conflict are building, share this story with them. Let them see what can happen when things escalate. Let them know there are resources out there, people who can help, ways to get out before it's too late. Because Romeca's story doesn't have to be anyone else's story. We can learn from this. We can do better. December 23rd is coming. We'll be watching. We'll be reporting. And we'll be standing with Romeca's family as they continue this fight. Because justice might be slow, but when people refuse to give up, when they keep pushing, keep demanding, keep making noise, sometimes it finally arrives. It arrived for Romeca on December 3rd. And now we wait to see what happens next. This is Mystoracrimes, and we'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there.